massacred. You could see their breath as they slowly made their way along the narrow, snow-covered paths towards their cabin. It was a beautiful log construction set on the hillside, overlooking the picturesque views of Ural Mountains. What follows is an event that no one seems to be able to explain. Back in the early 1950s, a group of young skiers decided to take a trekking vacation in the northern mountains of the Ural, only to be strangely massacred with no explanation or reason. Some years later, a small group of local university students decided to investigate the incident. The group were students of the exact same school that the previous party had attended, the Ural Polytechnical Institute. However, they were not prepared for the road that lay before them. After weeks of preparation, survival training, and mental and physical training, they were finally ready to set off on their unique expedition. On the day of their departure, the 9 students and 2 tutors kissed their families goodbye and shouted, "See you in a few weeks," as they left, blissfully unaware of what awaited them. They slowly made their way out of the town, gradually leaving the institute, disappearing into the distance. As the hours passed by, the youths talked and giggled between themselves, snacking on chocolate to keep their energy levels high until eventually reaching their base destination. They set up camp, pitching the 5 tents in a close circle, leaving just enough room for a fire. As they sat around the fire, they began to think about what may have happened all those years ago, and also what they might find up in the snow-covered peaks. A sudden fear of the unknown swept over them. As they settled down in their sleeping bags, they all found it difficult to sleep. It was 6:30 when they woke up, and after they ate breakfast, they gathered up their gear and set off at a steady pace up the deadly face of what was now called Kolat-Siakl, or Mountain of the Dead, named after the incident and what was found up there. Their pace slowed as the atmosphere thinned due to the altitude, making it increasingly difficult to breathe. 2 of the students found it impossible to continue, and it was decided that they and one of the guides would stay behind. This was the last anyone saw of them. The rest of the group continued up the slope towards the peak. One by one they started to fall back and separate from the group. As the remaining few reached the peak, they saw the remnants of the horror that preceded them. From the decomposed tent frames to the outline of the fire they had built, they began to try and imagine what had happened up there. As they made their way back down from the peak, an uneasy feeling of déjà vu came over them, but they acted on the feeling a little too late. What appeared to be a huge claw came down on them, one at a time. The brutal attacks happened quicker than they could escape. After 6 weeks of being declared as missing, their family's worst fears were confirmed. Police delivered the news to them individually, but disclosed no details. The only thing they could say is that the bodies could not be found. But based on the bloodbath they had found on the mountainside, it is highly unlikely they would have survived. Theories were given by various experts and others who children did not venture into the mountain. These included things such as Yeti attacks or wild animals. They also found human footsteps, barefoot human footsteps, which seemed highly unlikely as the temperatures were minus 24 degrees, so the human factor wasn't a realistic option. No one could understand how the party could disappear. No sign of anything such as equipment or clothing. One officer actually believed that the group had been mutilated and eaten. He also had a theory that there was an ancient tribe of mountain people living up there, practicing cannibalism and witchcraft. No one really took his story seriously, but nobody else had any explanations of what had happened or how the same thing could happen twice, in the same place, under the same circumstances. And so the mystery continues to this day.